Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Hey Sunshine. Today I'm so excited because I'm joined by my friend, Emily Caine. So Emily is the founder of Atom Soul, and I met her, I can't even remember now, a couple of months ago, and I heard her story and I just knew that I had to get you on the podcast, Em, and have a chat about all things. And I don't know if I'm sure everyone would have met someone like this, but you just meet them and they're just so full of life and so inspired and just like taking every day and making the absolute most of it. So today we're going to be talking about her journey through cancer. I think you're about in 5 years remission now, which is absolutely incredible. And we're going to be talking about how her journey through life so far has really shaped what she does today, and in particular her business Atom Soul. So if you haven't heard about it, it's incredible. She does these amazing, they're kind of like these personal development health boxes, but they just get delivered to your door. They've got a different theme every month, and it really helps people make meaningful changes to their health 1 month, one box at a time. So Em, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. What an intro. If I could just have you around me all the time, that would be great.
I'll just like walk into a room, I'll be like, everybody, this is Em, this is what she does. That'd be super handy, wouldn't it?
Oh, I love it. Thank you. I'm so excited to be on here. So thank you very much for inviting me on.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear, Em. So what I love to do is start off with a question about magic to open up the podcast. So what is magic to you, Em?
I love this question. So I have listened to all your previous podcasts and this has been my favorite part. I'm like, oh, I love hearing everyone's answers. It's a big question, but I think I looked back to what's the definition of it. It's the power to influence something through, I guess, unknown, mysterious kind of forces. But I see magic as it's our ability to find our purpose in life and create that life that we want, and find out who we are, what we value, and create that power in our own life to live however we want. I think there's magic in that. Wherever that comes from, it feels magic.
Amazing. And for you, magic and second chances and getting this new like whole lease on life, which has just been so incredible. And I kind of like did a little stalk on your Instagram because I've only known you for a couple of months, but going back through your Instagram and just seeing how much your life has changed, and even like you look about 10 years younger now as well. Like you're just so vibrant and full of life. So yeah, I thought we could really like start this convo by diving into your story. Like where did this whole journey begin for you, Em?
Yeah, I love that. Also, I just turned 30, so someone telling me that I look 10 years younger, thank you. I will take it.
But you know, when people are so happy, and it's like happiness is the best, you didn't even look old before, but you're just so vibrant. So
yeah. Thank you. Byron will do that, I think. No.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh God, where to begin? So I grew up in the Blue Mountains. I was always a bit of a country gal. Moved to the big city when I was 21. I moved to Melbourne, just trying to find my place in the world, I guess. And yeah, I worked as a beauty therapist for a long time and just made a move to find out who I was, and lived the city life, had lots of fun. And then I guess skipping forward to I was 24 when I was diagnosed with cancer. And I mean, we'll go into that. It was a huge shift in my life, but I almost feel like my life started again. So when people say, what's your story, what's your life before, I'm like, which life do we want to talk about? I guess because I feel like I have two, literally. But yeah, from there, it's once I, finished treatment and was on the recovery, I made a lot of life changes. I went back to uni and tried to pursue a career, or have pursued a career more towards health and finding that purpose. But just started again. I honestly felt like a new human, but I really realigned my life for what I wanted to do. And that was, I always wanted to work with people and help them in some capacity. I've always had a business mind, so I went down that road. But yeah, I went back to uni and studied exercise science and went down the road of high performance sport. And from there, I've just navigated all different ways. But I opened a gym in Melbourne, and yeah, I experienced a lot there and was really trying to find that place within health. But COVID, like everyone, hit me like a ton of bricks, and I made a change from there. And that's what's led me to Byron anyway. I left there, left a long-term relationship, left a business, and have almost started again here. And that's what led to Adam and Soul, which I know that we will go into, but I guess all of those experiences led me to creating a business that's more aligned with holistic health. And yeah, it's my personal life and then my work experience, all that has led to creating something where I just can help people in a holistic manner and support small businesses and connect with other like-minded people, which has been amazing. But yeah, I guess what's led me to here is that huge shift in my life. When I was 24, it hit me like a ton of bricks.
Oh my God. Well, at that age of 24, like nobody is equipped to deal with anything at any stage of life. Like it is so massive. So what was going through your mind at the time when you did get that diagnosis? You were age 24. Like how did you feel? What was going through your mind?
Oof, it was, yeah, it was a big time. So it's funny when I think back at it now, it's like I knew my whole life I've had this instinct that something big was going to happen. It's like, I think when you're really in tune with yourself and your instincts, sometimes you just know things. I always thought I'd win lotto. I'd become famous or something really stupid. That's my 21-year-old brain that's like, you're definitely going to win lotto.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't.
So close, so close.
Yeah. But it's like I knew. So I was working in a job at the time that I was just struggling. I quit my job the day before I was diagnosed. Actually, I remember saying to my manager, I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with me, but something's off. I feel like I'm just really out of sorts. So I'm just going to take some time away, thinking it was just the job that maybe I wasn't too aligned with. But I had an appointment the next day. I was by myself. I lived in Melbourne by myself. And there was one part of my brain that's like, I know this isn't going to be good. But the other part of my brain's like, no, it's just another appointment, go and do it. And yeah, walking into that doctor's office and just sitting there at 24, listening to the words, I'm sorry, it's not good news. I think I guess looking back now, you go into shock, but it was almost like I blanked out. I think the hardest part was one, sitting there alone and processing something that big. But when I asked them, what's this looking like, it was, we need to do more tests, figure out if it had been spread anywhere or if it was localized. And I remember the words he said, if it hasn't spread anywhere, you've got an 80% chance of survival. If it has, then you've got about a 10% chance of survival. And that rocked me because I was like, numbers aside, it's like someone's sitting there saying to you, you're going to live or you're going to die. That's how my brain interpreted it. And I obviously was distraught, had to take some time out. The worst part about that time is calling your family.
Yeah.
And I just remember that moment of, calling my mom, calling my dad, calling my brother. And how do you spit those words out when you're like, almost the hardest part about that whole experience is how the people you love around you experience it, and the pain that they're feeling. So I walked outside of the doctor's office, and I just remember standing on the side of the road, and it was almost like I went into another dimension. It was like the world was spinning around me, and I thought, that second, my life completely changed. And I knew it in that moment that my life completely changed. And yeah, my brother booked me a flight that afternoon, and I got on a plane that afternoon and just went home and tried to process it. At that time, I was still waiting for tests to figure out how bad it was, and just had to immerse myself around being with family and people I love, and just coming to terms with the seriousness of what was happening, but also just wrapping your head around what your life's going to look like, because it obviously wasn't going to be the same. So from there on, it was an absolute whirlwind. I came home, and thankfully it hadn't spread anywhere, so it was looking good. But I spent the best of 12 months having chemotherapy. They got me on it straight away. You have all the fertility preservation surgeries. It's test after test. You're almost like a pin cushion. I think anyone listening that has experienced this, or if we're all affected by cancer in some way, unfortunately, these days. But if you speak to anyone, you almost just hand yourself over to the medical teams and become this pincushion. But
yeah, and a lot of trust as
yeah.
well, like a lot of trust in the
Yes.
people who are looking after you, and trust in your family and friends to be able to
Mhm.
support you through this. And I suppose for anyone who's listening who, because as you said, cancer has touched everyone's lives in some shape or form, say for a family member of someone who is going through cancer, do you have any tips on how they could really best support their family member who is going through that tough time?
Yeah, this is a great question, and thank you for asking it, because it's something that I probably never even thought of until I experienced this myself. Um, if you are supporting someone who's going through that, I think try to be mindful of the questions that you ask and the things that you say, because a lot of the time you'll say things to comfort yourself, and without even realizing you can be saying things to settle that really uncomfortable feeling within yourself. And I remember a lot of people used to say, and even family, you'll be fine, you'll be okay, you're going to get through this. But I almost just wanted someone to acknowledge that you don't know that, and I have to accept that, and I need other people to accept that around me, because we all do it. It's human nature to want to tell people that it's okay. It's human nature that we want to fix things and to make everything feel safe and okay. And
yeah,
and it's only coming from a place of love. But there's the other side of that. Sometimes you need acknowledgement of how terrifying and how hard something is. So give them the space to feel those uncomfortable feelings, and give them the space to feel the anger, the sadness, the grief. There's so much grief that comes with it. I personally felt a lot of shame around it, and it might seem like an odd emotion towards cancer, but I did. I felt shame, that I felt like my body let me down. I felt like I'd let myself down and other people around me. But anytime someone's like, you'll be fine, you'll be okay, they were empty words to me, because deep down I was processing that. So I think be supportive and show love, but it's okay for people to be uncomfortable and sad and scared. And that's all part of how you deal with something such as facing your own mortality. And then I think it's something that we do in life, right? There's so many different ways or areas of our life that we could practice that. But let people sit in uncomfortable, particularly with something like that, because it's big, and that's where the growing happens, and that's where the lessons come from. Because when you blanket something and you try to sugarcoat or make everything okay, sometimes you're not actually allowed the opportunity to grow and learn from that, which is which when you come out of something like this, you want to take something from it of growing as a person. So
and I think a big part is like not feeling like we need to have all the words to say when someone is going through that time. Like sometimes, as you'd probably know, not saying anything but just being there is more powerful than filling the space. I'm pretty much speaking to myself at the moment, but filling the space with words and feeling like you need to know the perfect thing to say. And
absolutely.
Did you find at the time, Em, like I think when people do get in this stage, you can either become super bitter and resentful, or you can have an extreme level of compassion and understanding for humans and what they were going through. Did you sort of feel like you started in one and moved into the other, or what did that look like through your journey?
Yeah, I've definitely experienced both. So when I was diagnosed and I was into it, I went into, it's a horrible word to use, but almost like robot mode. It was survival mode. That's all it was I'm just going to get this shit done. It's not going to kill me, and I'm going to do this. Let's just do it. It was not until I started to recover, so when I finished treatment, that's when I started to experience those emotions. So I would meet other people who I was going through treatment with, and I had this compassion, but I was almost disconnected. And I think it was a survival instinct of, there was people around me dying, and there was people around me younger than me dying. And it's a hard environment to be around. You watch another, 20-year-old person or a 16-year-old person around you pass away, and there's a part of you that it destroys. But you see this, oh my God, is this happening to me? Am I watching what's coming for me happen? So I think that there was a level of disconnect there, while I had a lot of compassion and empathy. But it was not until when I finished treatment that I had quite a bit of bitterness and resentment. I think it was anger just towards the,
Mm.
why did this happen? And I try not to sink into that too much. I think you have those moments where you're like, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
What kind of hand did I just get dealt? Doesn't last long, but again, you
Mm.
have to sit in those moments. But I had more frustration towards just how people were living their life sometimes. And
Mm.
I know now people just live their life the way they're going to. You can't,
Yeah,
can't do
disconnect
anything
from
about
that.
that. You just
Yeah,
have to let it go.
it's hard.
But sometimes I was just like, it doesn't matter. There's things that just don't
Mm.
matter. And I think I had resentment towards not being able to just fully be a 24-year-old woman. It almost made me grow up too fast.
Yeah.
But then the other flip side of it is I also realized that you have no idea what other people are going through.
Mm.
No idea, and there's an element of compassion that you have to have for every person, because for the most part, everyone is just trying to do the best with what they know at the time.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
you never know what people are going through. So
Mm.
yeah, it's a pool of emotions, and I still experience it to this day. Sometimes I look at situations and I just think, literally, what is happening?
Mm.
Who cares? And then there's the other side that's like, well, no, people are just doing the best with what they know.
Yeah, that's so important. And
Mm.
you said before, like why did this happen? Do you think hindsight has brought a whole new perspective on your life and why you did have to go through that journey, and how it's really shaped where you are at today?
Yeah, absolutely. I honestly, and I say this, I guess, from my perspective, and I don't want this to be interpreted in the wrong way, but it's the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
And I've said this to people before, and they're like, what, cancer's the best thing that's ever happened? But I wouldn't wish it upon anyone.
Mm.
But it changed my life. And yeah, I've always had my thoughts on why it happened. I had a really freakishly rare type of cancer. It wasn't genetic. It wasn't a lifestyle, related cancer. It was just one of those freak things that happened. But it forced me to find my purpose in life, but also reflect on the choices I was making. I look at my life leading up to that, and I made a series of choices, just, small things, whether it's work or people I was friends with or whatever it was, that deep down I knew I was making the wrong choice, but I ignored it anyway. And sometimes I think that life will just find a way to kick you in the ass if you're not following that, what
In
you
your
should be
truth.
doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, in your
Yeah.
truth. That's exactly right.
Mm.
And I'm not saying that if you don't follow that, you're going to get cancer by any means. Please don't take it as that. Disclaimer.
Yeah.
But I think that was just how my life was supposed to play out, and it happens differently for everybody. That life finds a way to pull you back on course. And yeah, I look back now and I wouldn't change it, despite the heartbreak and everything that's come with it. It's made me a completely different person for the better.
Yeah, that's so powerful to have that ability and strength to see that situation like that, because I think a lot of people can get sort of stuck in this sort of doom and gloom mindset, but for you to really zoom out and just see it as the experience that it was and take all the best lessons that you could from it, that is just so powerful. And just celebrating you for, I think you said it's 5 years in remission now, it's just amazing. So yeah, it's so nice to see you just so zesting with life.
Thank you.
And I was doing a little bit of research before we jumped on the call, and there's this Tibetan saying, it's keep death by your side. So it's, when you probably first hear that, you're like, oh, what does that mean? But when you sort of sit with it, it's like when we can actually use our own mortality as a kind of a reminder that life is short. And as you said before, Em, it's like, it's not about just saying yes to all these things and just being like, yeah, one day it'll work out. It's like, no, like, let's use discernment on who's in our life. What are we doing with our life? What are we putting into our bodies? Like, it's so important. And yeah, keeping death by our side as a reminder that, yeah, life is short and time is just so precious,
Absolutely. I think it's something that we forget. I feel like we think that we're immortal sometimes, and we're not. And you'll see it in in the world, I think, without going on a tangent, but you look at what the media does or what other people can capitalize on, it's a fear of death. And we all have it. And, it was actually my brother who's helped me so much with that. It's a big realization when you go through something like this, is it comes down to the fact that you feel all this grief and fear and anger and loss because there is a fear of death there. But we forget that it's going to happen, and that is part of life. And if you can look at it from that perspective, exactly what you said, like, keep that in your mind and live life to your absolute fullest, because we can't ignore the fact that it will happen, and it doesn't have to be this horrendously scary thing that we can never talk about. Yes, there's so much grief around it, and it's sad. There's so much sadness and loss that comes with it, but it is, on the flip side of that, a reminder, like, be true to you, live your life the way you want to live. Fuck everyone else.
Literally. That's one takeaway. Fuck everyone else. To live your life that way.
Just be a good person, and make people feel good things, and make yourself feel good, and just be a good person, I think, is what comes to the end of that, because that's what you'll look back on, is how did I make people feel, and how do I feel about my life? It's not what I gained from it. Did I have the nicest house, the nicest car? It's like, how do I actually feel about the way I live my life, and the people I love around me? Did they feel good around me? And then, vice versa. So it's a good reminder.
Bloody good reminder. And this is hopefully not too dark and deep, but do you fear death now?
I think I'd be lying if I said no. I think it's something that I've definitely had to work through, and it's taken me a long time. I went into complete shut off mode for a little while after I started to go into recovery. And I was like, no, I can't think about it. But then I kept getting so much anxiety leading up to scans, so much anxiety. And conversations with my family, and they're like, well, there's a reason that you feel so much anxiety. One, you don't want to go through that again. But it all comes down to fear, and it's that fear of death. And I must admit, my last scans that I had in February, I walked in, and it was my first one in Byron, away from Melbourne, away from the comfort zone. I walked in, I was like, in and out, like, shit, I actually feel pretty good. I wasn't terrified of that. I think I will always hold that fear around hurting those around me. But in terms of me, myself, dying, no, probably not as much as what I had, because I know now that I'm doing everything I can to live a life that's full and happy, and that I'm trying to be the best person I can be. And but there's always fear of the unknown, right? Totally. Sometimes it's just turning it into a bit more acceptance than fear.
And what about like your trust with, something greater, like a spiritual aspect or the universe? Like, that was obviously super tested throughout your journey. What does your relationship with trust and the universe look like now?
Definitely, like, I've always known there's something there, and I almost find it hard to put into words, because we don't know. None of us really know, but I always had this feeling as though I knew I was going to be okay. Just that same feeling. I knew that something big was going to happen in my life. It was that same feeling. And I certainly have trust that whatever is meant to be will be. And you have to accept whatever that looks like along the way. And I guess people look at this all differently, whether it's spirituality, whether it's religion, or whatever it is that you believe in. All I know is that I just trust whatever that higher power is. And I think in this stage in my life, I'm still trying to figure out what I believe that is, because it's swayed throughout my life, but I'm certainly more open to finding that now. But there's just have trust regardless. And sometimes it's not always going to be great.
100%. That's beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. And so throughout this whole journey, it kind of shifted things that are, a priority in your life. And one thing that I know you live and breathe is health is your first priority. So what does that look like now in your day-to-day life? Like, just making health your number one priority? So I guess looking back from,
look at exercise, nutrition, all those classic things of health, I got straight into jiu-jitsu, which is a massive part of my life. I love it. I started that a month out of hospital, one for my mental health and two to physically get back on track. So I do that every day if I could, but most days of the week, and have just got into coaching a women's class as well. So that's a huge part. I work in the fitness industry on the side apart from my own business, so that puts me in there. Always just try to stay physically active, but you know, I don't have the perfect diet. I'm not this holy, oh my God, I can only eat certain things, and I would love to say that I am, but I've learned life is also about balance and enjoyment. But I always try and make obviously really good choices in terms of just looking after my body. But in terms of looking after my health, it's more choices of who am I around of a day? How am I spending my days? Am I sleeping well? Can I get up with the sun? Can I watch sunrises, sunsets, all these things that internally just make me happy, and know that, those days that I am able to do that, I just feel good and I feel happy in my day, and everything else comes with that. And I've even learned that on the shit days, the days where, the days you don't even want to be around yourself. You get up and you're like,
oh, leave me.
I can't stand myself today. Even on those days, just accepting that that's okay. And it's amazing the ripple on effect that has for yourself, to be like, you know what, I'm just a shit person today, so I'm just going to be really kind to myself, and I'm going to go for a walk, I'm going to hang out with my dog. And so it's more just being really conscious and in tune with how I feel and who I am every day. It's a big difference.
And a lot of like your daily rituals and your practices and your interests now have really informed what's going into the Adam and Soul boxes, hasn't it? Because it's all about sleep. It's about nutrition and gut health and, mindfulness. Do you want to talk a little bit about, your business and the sort of inspiration for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Adam and Soul, it actually started at the end of lockdowns in Melbourne, and I originally did it because I wanted to support some small businesses that were around me. Some friends had small businesses and they were epic what they were doing. I'm like, this needs to be shared with the world. So I wanted to bring those things together for people to experience them, something new. And then when I moved, it just evolved. I've always had a passion for obviously education around health and all aspects of it, and it just became something that I didn't want people to think that being healthy was being on this diet or just eating right, despite that being a huge part of your internal health. But it's not just exercise. It's all the things I mentioned before. There's so many aspects to it, which is why they're based around holistic health. I wanted people to know how important sleep is, how important your gut health is, how those things intertwine. I think I've got one coming up on women's health, on creativity, getting in touch with your creative side. It's how can you look at every angle of your life or every theme in your life and learn more about it and do the best with those opportunities, because all of those elements will impact how you experience your life and how well you live. And that was the idea. So one, yes, supporting small businesses is a massive part of it. I love connecting with other, I guess, aligned and like-minded people who are trying to bring good things into the world in that way, but also, finding local products or local businesses that offer that support for people and bring it all together. But it's more for just an opportunity for people to look beyond what's in front of us in terms of looking after your health that we see day to day. Look beyond how else you can change your life, because it could just be one really small thing that creates a whole new life for yourself. Something as little as getting 8 hours sleep.
I know, it's like, oh God, groundbreaking stuff. Seriously.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
But I love as well, Em, because, when people are stepping into this space, it can be quite overwhelming. They're like, where do I even focus on? Is it sleep? Is it health? Is it gut health? Is it, brain health? And the way that you've structured it, it's like you've got a month to like dive deep into one area. And then you go, you call in experts, you've got books, you've got little rituals and practices, and then you sort of dive to another month and then you've got another topic. So it's such a cool way for people when they don't know where to start with you, and then you sort of guide them through this whole process. So
Absolutely.
I love it. And it's been so cool to see the journey of Adam and Soul, and all the new boxes that get released. It's epic.
Oh, I can't wait for them all to come out. It's now I've just launched my second one. I'm like, oh, this is when you start to see them all come out. I'm like, this is how I envisaged it. But yes, they get a book every, and just even getting back to something like reading, a book every month to focus on, and having that learning aspect of it. It's, we need to take the time to look after ourselves a bit more, get out of the rat race of life and enjoy it.
Yeah, and you don't realize how much health is so important until it's lost, and then you're like, holy crap, I will do anything to get it back. So let's hope we don't get there for everyone.
No,
first, you know.
That's right.
So as a wrap-up question, and I'm sure you'll have so much to say on this one, but the one thing that has changed your life.
Ooh. This is a big question.
I know. I'm like, cancer was obviously a massive thing that changed your life, but something else.
Yeah, I almost say, like, just finding that ability to own who I am. I guess if we're looking at it from that perspective, for me, that was turning 30. I never knew about this whole Saturn return thing, but it came for my soul. It really came for me. There was some big changes. It's probably been the past 6 months that just owning what I want in life, what I value, and who I am, and being okay with that and really staying true to it, that has changed my life completely. And from every angle of who I'm around, my work, the opportunities that present themselves, I think it's, again, going back to that trust. Obviously, cancer was a big one. That was a turning point for me at 24. I think moving away and walking away from, a lot of heartbreak, that was another really big pivotal point. But just that, finding that ability to own who you are. And maybe that's just time. I guess that's just time that happens. But on the other side of that, and I know I've mentioned him a couple of times, but I would have to say probably my brother has been a person who has changed my life massively. Maybe if he's listening, if he does.
Yeah, what's his name? Let's give him a shout out.
Daniel.
Daniel. Hats off to you, Daniel.
He's much love to you, Daniel. I probably more than what he realizes, he's been someone that's really guided me through life and helped me come to some great realizations and face some really hard things. And I'd have to say that if there's a theme throughout my life of what's helped me change it for the better, he's been a big part of it. So shout out to you, brother.
Oh, that's awesome. You have to send him the episode so you can have a listen.
I will.
So how can people connect with you, with Adam and Soul, and all the magic you're putting out in the world?
I would say Instagram is probably the best place to find me, which is just Adam and Soul _.
Yes.
And then there is my website as well, which is adamandsoul.com.au. But Instagram is generally the best place. I update all the new boxes coming out on there. If you're a jiu-jitsu lover, you can just follow me on my personal one, but I guarantee if you don't like jiu-jitsu, probably don't, because that's all it is.
I love it.
But no.
Good. Well, your gut health box is just launched, so definitely check that out, guys. If you're looking to improve your gut health. And it's just been such a pleasure having you on and hearing about your journey. There was many a times where I was just like, holding back tears, have to host a podcast. But
You did well.
Okay, good. I'll just go and cry now. But just such a pleasure having you on, and thank you, Em. That was such a treat.
Oh, thank you so much, Shani.